I'm switching it up today. We're doing a little pre-workout instead of coffee or soda or an energy drink, because these videos are kind of like a workout. What's up everyone, Colt Capperrune here. Thank you for stopping by for yet another video. I appreciate you being here, and I hope this one helps because, man, is there some real confusion on this topic online, and I see it all over the place. And so while I am admittedly not an expert, a true, genuine, bona fide, got a degree expert in this field, I've done this a couple times before, and I hope that I can set some things straight and help someone with this video. Soundproofing versus acoustic treatment. What's the difference? What really needs to happen in order for you to get both of these things actually in check? So the first thing we got to go over is what the actual difference between soundproofing and acoustic treatment is. Soundproofing is the effort of trying to control the sound from being inside of a room like this to getting outside of this room, whether it's outside, out into the world, or into other rooms that surround this particular room. Acoustic treatment is treating the sonic characteristics of the room within itself. So when I'm in this room and I'm listening to music, or I'm playing guitar or playing drums, what does this room actually sound like from the inside? And so acoustic treatment is how you tweak and modify the sonic characteristics of a room from the inside. So I'm gonna break down both of these things for you guys, and hopefully this will help. I do have a video on acoustic treatment that you can check out right here, where I discuss the difference between the fabric wall system and acoustic panels and go over ceiling clouds and how I built my last panels for my last room. And you can see a little bit about the acoustic wall system that's used in this room. And I have a studio build video where I detailed pretty much everything about building this studio. You can check it out right here. There will be links in the description for both of these videos right down below. Before we get into it, if you wouldn't mind subscribing and hitting the bell icon next to the subscribe tab, and give me a thumbs up on this video and drop me a comment below, I would love it, and it would mean the absolute world to me. Okay, so how do you soundproof a room or a building then? Well, the first thing we got to go over is what's called an STC rating. Now, STC stands for Sound Transmission Class. And what this actually is the measurement of how much sound passes through an object or through a structure. And they measure this at 18 different frequency points from low to high. What they do is they put a sheet of drywall up and they run sound into it, and then they measure how much sound comes out the other side and at what frequencies. And then that gives a sheet of drywall its STC rating. Now the same thing happens when you look up soundproofing materials, when you're looking up RC channel or green glue, or any sort of system where you're going to do an RC channel and a sheet of drywall and green glue and drywall, and you can find all kinds of studies just on Google about different techniques and what that will give you in an STC rating, whether it's a double stud wall or cinder block wall, or you can find all of this stuff very easily online. And basically what it is it's giving you an idea of how much loss of sound you will get depending on the construction technique that you use. Now, the general concept when it comes to soundproofing is that there are two ways that you can soundproof a room. One is with mass, and the other is with decoupling. And ideally, you use a combination of these two things to create the most soundproof room you can for your application and for your situation, and honestly for your budget level. Mass is basically the density of an object. It's one of the reasons why people will double and triple up layers of drywall, is because drywall is very dense. It has a lot of mass. One layer of drywall will stop X amount of sound. 2 layers of drywall will stop way more sound. 3 layers will stop even more sound. And so what you're doing is you're adding mass to that wall, and that mass is controlling the amount of sound that is going through that wall. It's increasing the STC rating of that wall. Now, decoupling is actually keeping the vibration transfer from a sound from transferring through a structure or through an object. So this is where RC channel comes into place, or where floating floors come into place, or rooms within a rooms. There's a whole bunch of different techniques for decoupling. And the basic principle is the sound, let's say there's a drum set right here, right where I'm sitting, and he's playing the drums. The vibration from that drum set is coming off of those drums, and it's hitting hitting the surfaces, the ceiling, floor, and walls of this room. Now, what we're trying to do in terms of soundproofing is we're trying to contain that sound within this room. We're trying to keep that sound from traveling outside of this room. And so while mass is one way, decoupling is the other way. And basically what that means is those vibrations from that kick drum, they hit a wall, and that wall vibrates a certain percentage, right? Now, what we want to do for decoupling is keep that vibration transfer of that wall from transferring into the other wall or outside of this structure or into the structure itself. And so something like RC channel is a great way to attempt to do this. There's a whole bunch of products that help with this, but RC channel is a very common one. And so basically what happens is that wall then becomes floating. It's decoupling from the actual studs in the wall or in the structure itself. And so vibration then will hit the drywall. A certain percentage of that vibration will be kept from transferring into your studs or into your wall or the rest of your structure because of this RC channel. Same with floating floors. Floating floors are very often set up on rubber, and so that the floating floor will resonate with whatever it is you're recording, and that resonance is absorbed by the rubber that the floor is floating on and keeps that vibration from transferring into the floor beneath it or into the rest of the structure. That gets a little deep, but in general, that is basically how you soundproof a room, and most of the time you will do a combination of decoupling and adding mass, and then these two things in tandem create a soundproof room. So as I already said, acoustic treatment is going to be controlling the sonic characteristics of the sound of a room from within the room. But acoustic treatment is really made up between acoustic absorption, diffusion, and diffraction. And basically, in a nutshell, this gets super technical, but you can really break these down to a few different things. Acoustic absorption is going to take sound and absorb it and trap it. Technically, what it does is it converts it into heat and not let it go. But in a nutshell, a room can go from having lots of reverb and lots of echo to being very dead sounding just from acoustic absorption. Diffusion separates sound based on their frequencies in the time domain. So you've seen these diffusers. I'll throw a picture up of a diffuser right now. And basically what happens is sound runs into these diffusers, and because they're all different depths, it reflects at a different time. And so then that keeps things from having slapback, and it controls things based on frequency, and it changes things in the time domain. Now, diffraction is basically redirecting the sound in a different angle, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of studios don't have parallel walls if they can get away with it. So diffusion is basically the sound is coming like this, and because this is at an angle, it's going to reflect at a different angle than the one that it hits. It's not going to go straight back the way that it came. And so non-parallel walls is a great way to do this, or diffraction that you hang on the walls to change the angle of something is another great way to do this. But all acoustic treatment can basically be broken down to absorption, diffusion, and diffraction. Now, in terms of acoustic treatment, for most of you watching, you're going to be critically listening to sound coming out of your studio monitors, out of these bad boys right here. And if you're ever going to do that within your room, whether you're mixing or you're just recording, you're producing, whatever, the most important thing is that you have your first reflection points treated within your room. And so you can just Google first reflection points acoustic treatment. And basically, I've talked about this in other videos. You can check the other videos out in the link in the description. Basically, what you want to do is you want to absorb the sound with broadband absorbers, not foam, absorption that, I can't even talk today, absorption that covers a very wide frequency spectrum. And basically the sound, if you're sitting in front of your speakers, the sound comes out of those speakers and it hits your ears. And the sound also hits the walls and then hits your ears. And the sound also hits the ceiling and hits your ears. And the sound hits the floor and hits your ears. And it goes all these different directions, but each one of these directions takes a slightly different amount of time. And so the real issue is not necessarily controlling the reverb within your room. The real issue is controlling phase smear. And so if the sound leaves the speakers and it hits your ears, it takes X amount of time for that to happen. But when the sound leaves the speakers and goes to the ceiling and hits your ears, that same sound reaches your ears slightly behind the sound that just came out of the speakers and hits your ears. This phase smear is what they call it. This smearing of the phase, if you will, it makes things very hard to accurately hear what's happening within your music. And so Google first reflection points acoustic treatment and get all your first reflection points, ceiling cloud included. Ceiling cloud is arguably the most important part in my opinion. If you're tracking drums or acoustic guitars, or you're never actually listening to a pair of speakers within your room, then your treatment goals will be a totally different thing. First reflection points are no longer a thing. Maybe you want a very live sounding room. Maybe you want a very dead sounding room, and it all depends on your goals and your tastes for what you want out of your room. So that basically sums up the differences between soundproofing and acoustic treatment. They're absolutely not the same thing. Now, technically, acoustic treatment does affect the STC rating of a room, but it's in such a minuscule way that it has almost no real actual meaning, no real actual effect on the STC rating of your room. So I hope that helps someone. I hope that clears up some confusion. Don't forget to hit me up on Instagram at Colt Capperrune. Hit my website up, coltcapperrune.com. There'll be links in the description for all of this below. If you wouldn't mind, subscribe, hit the bell icon next to the subscribe tab, and give me a thumbs up and drop me a comment. Share with your friends if you got something out of it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.